Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of The Bullet. My name is Paul Lathrop. I'm the Deputy Director of New Media for the Second Amendment Foundation. Joining me today, as he does every other Monday, straight from his office, well, his main office in Massachusetts, not the training office in Utah. Coming to us from Massachusetts, Charlie Cook of Riding Shotgun with Charlie. How's it going today, man?
I'm doing fabulous, man. I'm happy to be here as always. Be here, not in Massachusetts, but
okay. Well, all right. A lot of news to get to today. I want to lead off. We've got a press release from the home offices in Bellevue, Washington for SAF. This one actually comes from the Citizens Committee for the Right to Keep and Bear Arms. CCR KBA today blasted President Joe Biden and Democrats for rushing to exploit the mass shooting tragedy in Raleigh, North Carolina by calling for a ban on so-called assault weapons when the teenage suspect used a shotgun. Even before the investigation had really started, said CCR KBA Chairman Alan Gottlieb, Democrat politicians were clamoring for more gun control. Biden quickly renewed his crusade for a ban on assault weapons and asked others to follow his lead. To exploit such tragedies by immediately calling for additional gun control laws that would have not have prevented this crime and not prevent other crimes is the height of intellectual dishonesty. It is this kind of callous capitalization that drives gun owners away from voting for Democrats, Gottlieb continued. The party and its president have once again revealed why they will use any tragedy to promote their agenda of public disarmament. I continue a little more here. The press didn't hesitate to sensationalize this tragedy either. Report after report used terms straight out of the gun grabber's dictionary. Gun safety and gun reform, for example, when they're talking about gun prohibition. This is one more example of Joe Biden and other Democrats lying about guns, which really shouldn't surprise anybody, Gottlieb stated. They habitually lie to gather a gun prohibition agenda that has nothing to do with public safety. The number of times Biden has personally lied about guns in the Second Amendment is well known. He was called out by the Washington Post fact checker for saying there were gun restrictions when the nation was founded more than 240 years ago. He concludes with, Biden simply can't get his story straight about guns, and when something isn't straight, it's crooked. That seems to be the way Joe Biden has always been about guns, and it rubbed off on his party. Gun owners have figured it out. That's why they have drifted away from Democrats and taken their votes with them.
Come on, man.
You know, I wish I could say that I was surprised when Joe Biden was doing that, but honestly, anything that they can do to further their agenda, even if it's not honest, even if it's not by the book, they're going to do it.
Absolutely, it is them not stating the truth often enough that they believe it. Right? It's to make a Seinfeld reference to a Star Trek reference. It's not. What is it? It's not a lie if you believe it. Is that what it was?
Okay.
I think it's not a lie if you think it's true. I think I could have been what it is. I forget what it is. But they're gonna keep repeating this and repeating this and repeating this, and it's completely nuts. I heard over the weekend. I was hanging out with some friends, and I heard some TV going on in the background, and it was a commercial for one of these CSI shows, and they talked about an assault shotgun. And my ears immediately perked up. And I'm like, we don't have assault shotguns. We have shotguns.
Yes. Well, publicly available, we have shotguns. There is the AA-12, which is a military fully auto. I mean, really fully auto shotgun. But
right,
that was invented after 1985 for when the public can't get newly
machine guns.
Yes.
Right.
So
Yeah, it's nuts, and that was like I said, it was for some commercial for something, but they used the term assault shotgun, and if it's on TV, the media is certainly going to start picking it up and using it. And when I read through this, I swear to God, I saw assault shotgun someplace.
I suppose it's entirely possible. I have a friend that has a Mossberg that he tricked out. A Mossberg 500, very, very, very common shotgun. But he added a pistol grip to it. He added a few other things, and it looks nasty. I mean, it looks like what someone would term an assault shotgun, but at its core, it's a Mossberg 500 shotgun. It's no more, no less deadly than one I could go down and pay $400 for at the local gun store.
Look, it's no more deadly than your grandfather's single shot 12 gauge that he used to hunt rabbits with for food. It's the same, it's the same.
Yeah.
When I teach classes out here, I have a slide where we have to talk about semi-automatic rifles, and I have a picture of a Ruger 1022, and then the next slide is all these variations of the Ruger 1022, and one of them's got a high cap magazine, and the other's got a scope on it and a synthetic stock, and there's a pink one with a pistol grip and a collapsible stock, and there's a Target one that's got a thumbhole stock and a heavy barrel and a bipod. And then there's one that has a pistol grip, a collapsible stock, a fore-end grip, a red dot sight, a carry handle, and a scope on it. And I say, I point to the regular 1022 with the high cap magazine, and I say, this is for shooting squirrels. And then I point to the other one, and I say, this is for shooting terrorist squirrels. And I say there's no difference between these. And if you're a gun guy or a gun gal and you see somebody that's got a tricked out 1022, you're like, oh, that's really cool. Nice.
Yeah.
Do you have it? Like, it's a 22, man. It's a 22. It's for shooting squirrels. It's for target shooting. I always tell them it's like a Prius. One's a Prius, and then the other's a Prius with nice rims, racing stripes, and a spoiler on it.
Jeez. Get that.
One's Justin Bieber. One's Justin Bieber. The other Justin Bieber with tattoos.
Okay.
Right?
Get that image out of your head, folks. Wow.
Burn your eyes out. But it's just how it looks. We as Americans, we are into military stuff like cargo shorts, like Jeeps, like Hummer vehicles. This is stuff that we dig. Camouflage is military clothing.
Yes.
I think Velcro was made for the military too, wasn't it?
Originally, I believe it was made for the space program, but the military quickly adopted it.
There we go. Right. I mean, the government made it, right?
Let me get a comment in here real quick. Larry over in the Facebook side says, that shows it is the stock, an assault stock. And
right.
Big John 410 says, shotguns that are magazine fed and semi-auto are no longer allowed to be purchased in my state. That's unfortunate.
Wow. All right. So what state is Big John 410 from?
If I'm remembering right, I think he may be Connecticut.
Connecticut. Okay. I was thinking Maryland, but it could be Connecticut. I mean, look, let's face it. It's either California or the Northeast.
Yeah.
I mean, realistically, he'll chime in and tell us, but that's the two choices we have.
Yeah. Well, Hawaii's right in there too. So, but I would have remembered a lot more clearly if he was from Hawaii. Anyway, I want to get to our next story because this one I think we're going to end up spending time on. This one off of NJ.com. One major proposal announced Thursday would require New Jersey gun owners to purchase liability insurance, which no other state currently does. That proposed law also contains an expansive list of places where firearms would be prohibited, from courthouses and schools to public parks and playgrounds. It would also create a safe carry requirement that would prohibit anyone from using alcohol or cannabis while carrying a gun. The proposal concerns concealed carry. Open carry of firearms would remain illegal, and I'm going to go ahead and just skip the rest of it. It repeats a lot of the same stuff, but it was just a couple years ago, Charlie, New Jersey tried to outlaw insurance for people who had concealed carry, calling it murder insurance. And now they want to require you to have insurance to get a concealed carry permit. Huh?
You know, we love John Petrolino, but holy crap, his state is out of control.
Yeah. Real quick, Big John 410 is from Delaware. So it's
Delaware!
Still northeast.
It's still the Northeast. Yep, still the Northeast. I'm a big fan of the Gun for Hire podcast, and on this week's show, Anthony Calandro spent a lot of time talking about how they outlawed having insurance, and now they're requiring you to have insurance in New Jersey. And it really is a state where the politicians, they don't. I can't really use the term I like to use, but they can't find anything with a funnel. It's kind of where it comes from. So like so many other politicians, they'll come out and say, we need to make sure that kids under 21 can't buy handguns. They can't already. Well, we need to really make sure. Okay, this it doesn't make any sense. They don't know what the laws are currently, and they want to make more laws saying, it's the Department of Redundancy Department.
They want to do something.
Yeah, and very much like the Constitution, when people say it shouldn't be rewritten, it should be reread. They should do something and see what the laws are that are currently on the books, and find out that most of the things they're proposing are probably already on the books, and they just don't know that they're proposed, or they're not up to their whatever standard or language or nonsense.
Well, and what they really need to go do is they really need to go reread the New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruin decision.
Absolutely.
And specifically when Judge Thomas was saying you cannot make all of Manhattan a gun-free zone. Well, guess what? You can't make all of New Jersey a gun-free zone. You cannot put egregious limitations on concealed carry permits. That means you cannot require insurance that you tried to outlaw to get a permit. Yeah.
It's so crazy. Like, I was talking with John about this. Is some of the, if he gets a carry permit, there are certain guns that he can carry, and then there's guns that he can't carry. So he's got to let the state know what, the make and model and serial number of the guns they want to carry in New Jersey. And if you go to the range with more guns than are on that list, and then you decide to go out to eat afterwards, you're now breaking the law, because you can carry the guns that you've listed, but you cannot transport the guns that you did not list anywhere other than to the range and home and back and forth, and that's it. So it gets completely convoluted and screwy and doesn't make any sense at all.
So if I were to go to the range, I would have to have I could bring any gun that was on my permit, but if I were just going to the range and back, I could bring another gun. But if I went anywhere else, I'd be in trouble. Is that what I'm understanding?
That is the way I understand it. Yeah.
Wow.
Right. So you carry, let's say you carry a Glock 19 and you've got a Glock 17 in your gun case. And you go to the range and you go shooting, and then of course your wife says, hey, let's meet for dinner. You have to go home to put the 17 away, and then you can keep on carrying the 19, because you can't have any unnecessary deviation. It's completely screwed up.
I'm not in this category myself, but I know people that are in this category. If they were going to have every firearm that they're going to carry on a permit, the permit would be as long as their right arm. It just
right. It's going to go from a permit to a placard.
let's put this one up here real quick. Lee over on the Facebook side says, "My hope for carry permits was relief from transportation issues. It's so disappointing." Well, hang on, man. The lawsuits are just starting. The Supreme Court decision was just back in June. We're at the end of June. We're the middle of October now, and they haven't even passed this law in New Jersey yet. It was just put up late last week. So the lawsuits have to pass the law, then the lawsuits get to be filed, and then as you'll see later in the broadcast, we've got a story. Lawsuits aren't fast. This will all come around. We are going to win. I believe that in my heart. We are going to win this. It just takes time. It takes effort. So.
Speaking of winning court cases, there was a press release from SAF this weekend.
Yes.
About something they were victorious in. So if you want to be with a winner, if you want to support a winner, support the Second Amendment Foundation.
Amen. And I try to get those every victory. I try to get them on the bullet, and whether it be on the weekday or the weekend. Matter of fact, let me go look and see, because we announce so many of them that let me go see if I can find very, very quickly where that victory was. I apparently did not have it on the weekend bullet. Maybe it was from earlier in the week. But anyway, I want to get this comment up here real quick. This one from our good friend. I've got to get Tony back on the air. He's just a hoot. Simon says train. Tony Simon. Charlie is 100% correct. I'm guessing in your explanation of the New Jersey law. So.
Finally, can somebody get the drop of that? I need to go back and screenshot this.
All right. And one I did not get up. Let me go to this one first. Lee says, "I don't think my model and serial number desires a carry permit. I do. Thanks for the words of hope." Yeah, Lee, do not give up. Do not give up, man. We're going to get this. New York, I honestly believe before they put me 6 foot under, we're going to get constitutional carry in all 50 states, because you did not need a carry permit in 1791 anywhere.
Amen.
I think that's the way we're going. So hang on. If you're not a member of SAF, please, saf.org/join. We need your help to keep these lawsuits going forward.
I pulled up the email that was the announcement. The SAF applauds Tennessee court ruling against a housing authority gun ban.
Yes, that was on Friday's show.
Yeah, so it was one of these things where if you lived in a condo or an apartment, your landlord cannot tell you that you cannot have a gun?
This was actually more specific than that. It was a public housing thing. The guy was in public housing. The public housing rule was you cannot have a gun here. The guy said, "You're not taking my guns." They evicted him, and he won when they sued. He won, and so if you are in public housing, they cannot force you out of your home if you have to live in public housing because you have a firearm. You have the absolute right. Then this doesn't even go to Bruin. This goes to Heller. You have the absolute right inside your home to have a firearm. It doesn't matter who pays the damn bills. As long as that's your home, you have the right to have a firearm there.
I interviewed a gal a couple years ago. Her name was Layla Perney, and she was a student at Harvard, and she lived in one of the town. She lived in Somerville, Massachusetts. She had roommates, and her roommates saw that she had a MAGA hat. Ooh. And obviously that meant she was from Texas. She had a MAGA hat, which meant she had a gun, and she did have a gun license. Her roommates broke into her room. They found her gun safe. They tried to break into her gun safe to confirm it was a gun, and they wanted her to pay all of the rent. And the police were called. The police came down, and they're like, she didn't do anything wrong. She's got a gun license. She's got her gun locked up. You're the ones that are trying to break into her gun safe.
I hope they arrested them.
I don't think they arrested him, but she of course ended up moving back to free America, and carries on with what she does. So
yeah. If I were that young lady, and I'm certainly not a young lady, but I would have advised her to press charges. Anyway,
yes.
I came across. I do a news search every morning, and I do news searches not just for pro-gun stories, but for anti-gun stories as well. I get press releases from Shannon Watts quite often. But this one comes off of laprogressive.com, a long article, and it's a very anti-gun article, but there's some interesting numbers in this article. How dangerous are schools? Over 50 million children and adults attend 131,000 American elementary and high schools, an average of 7 hours a day, 180 days a year, a typical 93% attendance levels. Over the last year, a particularly bad month for 12 months for school shootings, including Uvalde, there were 72 persons killed in school gun violence by the broadest definition. That is, students 5 to 18 spent approximately 13% of their total hours in school, while suffering 3% of their total gun deaths in or around a school. That from this anti-gun article. What that's telling me is schools, one of the, even with schools being throughout most of the country, Ohio and Arizona being two of the exceptions, being gun-free zones and soft targets, schools are a very safe place for kids to be. Is what that's telling me.
Certainly safer than the subway in New York City, for sure. Yeah, I mean, there's, you certainly do not want to downplay the shootings that have happened in schools, but it's very, very, very unlikely.
Yes.
To happen to you or your kids.
Yeah. As a matter of fact,
but that doesn't mean we shouldn't do something to better prepare our teachers in case it does happen.
I totally agree. And we mention this very often. And you've been through their training, the FASTER program in Ohio, also now spreading, and it's in Colorado, it's in Arizona. But I had a Shannon Watts article that I ripped apart here. I believe it was on the Saturday edition, the weekend edition of the Bullet. But some crime statistics that I got off of gunfacts.info I want to pop off here real quick. Speaking of shooting victims, if you've been shot, 71% of gunshot victims in the United States had previous arrest records. 64% had been victims of a crime. Gunshot victims had an average of 11 prior arrests. 63% of victims had criminal histories, and 73% of that group knew their assailant. That's twice as often as victims without criminal histories. 74% of homicide during the commission of a felony involved guns, and most gun violence is between criminals. Those are just numbers I pulled off of gunfacts.info to comment on a Shannon Watts article. Where I'm going with that is, and I've said this a million times, if we lock up criminals and keep them frigging locked up for the entire sentence they've earned. Gun violence, violence period goes away.
It boggles my mind that somebody can have illegal hard drugs and firearms illegally, commit crimes, sell drugs, and get arrested, and then they're out. They're out later that day. But if I were caught with, if I was caught with a ghost gun, I would go away for a long time.
Oh yeah,
it's completely ridiculous. There's a double standard in that they want to let, they being the anti-gun crowd, they want to let criminals out. They want to give them a second chance or a 12th chance or an 18th chance. But if you or I did something, if we brandished a firearm, if our shirt came up and someone freaked out that we're carrying a gun underneath our shirt, and then, I was scared because the guy at the ice cream aisle had a gun and I was in fear for my life, I would get in trouble. I could lose my gun license and possibly face some charges and maybe jail time for that because my shirt slipped up. But if I had heroin on me, then I could plead that charge down and be out for lunch.
Exactly. Real quick story, and we got to get out of here. But when I very first started carrying, I had a Glock Model 22. It's the full-size 40 caliber Glock that I had. This was wintertime. I had a jacket over it, and somehow the jacket came up, and it got exposed. I hadn't noticed it, and nobody freaked out. Matter of fact, the guy in the convenience store, when I walked in the convenience store, he said, "Hey, nice Glock. What do you carry for ammunition?" That's just where I come from. It's just no big deal. You expose. But if that would have happened in Massachusetts, yeah, I'd have been 3 to 5 for menacing or something.
Oh my gosh, absolutely! It's ridiculous. I saw one of the Facebook pages I follow is like Death Before Pop Country or something like this, and they had a picture of Hank Williams Jr. I know, right? They had a picture of Hank Williams Jr. talking to Willie Nelson, and Hank has a gun right on his hip. I love this stuff, man.
All right. On our way out the door, we're not going to have time to get in depth to it, but one story I want to mention is, speaking of, you've got to be patient. The magazine limitation in Washington that went into effect this year. The SAF has sued. We got a trial date. The trial date is December 4th, 2023. So we're making progress. We're going to win this, but in some places you've got to be a little patient.
Or a lot of patient.
Yes. Yeah. Let me get. Wow, I've got to get this comment up. I've just got to. Simon says, Train, if you live in Utah and want a carry permit, contact Charlie. He's a Utah CCW instructor. Simon, Tony, if you live in Utah, you don't need a permit unless you want to travel outside of Utah and then get a hold of Charlie.
Right, I'll be in Utah teaching Utah classes for the people outside of Utah.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I love Tony for that stuff, man.
Yes. And then Donald on the Facebook side says Open Carry took care of the branding issue in Texas. Yeah,
Nice.
you can if it slips in. We just had AmCon and GRPC in Dallas a few weeks ago, and I was carrying the entire time, but I was concealed. I don't know. I don't think I printed. I don't think it ever showed, but
I don't think it did either, but it's not an issue.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That is exactly it. we are down at the bottom of the hour. We got to turn around in a half an hour. We got to be back up for PSP. Charlie, is there anything you want to plug on the way out the door, man?
Absolutely, man. I need people to subscribe to Riding Shotgun with Charlie on YouTube. I need them to download the podcast and all your favorite podcast places: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and the Writing Shotgun with Charlie came out a couple weeks ago. I revisited the interview with Danny and Cheryl Todd. You can watch that. You can listen to the new interview I did with them on YouTube as well. So please check out everything Riding Shotgun with Charlie on the YouTube.
Very cool. And I got to give Tony the last word. It's his business plan, not mine. All right. Folks, for my end, that's going to do it for us today. Please do come join us in 30 minutes for Polite Society Podcast right here where you saw this. And come join me Tuesday through Friday, 5 p.m. Central Time for more editions of The Bullet. We'll bring up your news of the day every day. Thanks again for watching. Thanks for commenting. And we'll see you next time.